On this edition of Fulton Law and Justice, Fulton's Solicitor General sits down with Georgia lawmakers about criminal justice reform in the state and the legacy of the civil rights movement at the Capitol. And the Fulton County Sheriff lays out the strategy for his office for the entire year. We'll also see how inmates and man's best friend are changing each other's lives. And we'll introduce you to the first Fulton County Grand Juror with autism. I'm Douglas Bell, and Fulton Law and Justice starts right after the break. Stay with us. Welcome to Fulton Law and Justice, your inside look at the work of Fulton's justice partners. I'm Douglas Bell. We begin with the efforts of some Georgia lawmakers in the area of criminal justice reform. That's just one of the topics of discussion as Fulton's Solicitor General sits down with legislators about the 2019 legislative session in this edition of Restorative Justice.
Welcome to this edition of Restorative Justice. I'm Kenya Johnson. As you may know, the Solicitor General's office prosecutes misdemeanor and traffic offenses like impaired driving and domestic violence crimes. The mission of this office is to prosecute misdemeanors with smart, fair, and restorative justice. Smart and fair laws set forth by state lawmakers help the Solicitor General and his team to do their work. It's why Solicitor Keith Gammage is in the studio now with Georgia State Representatives Karen Bennett and William Bodie to learn about their efforts during this 2019 legislative session.
Thanks, Kenya. I am indeed happy to be joined by State Representatives Karen Bennett and William Bodie. Representative Bennett represents District 94 and Representative Bodie represents District 62. Again, welcome.
Thank you.
What kind of initiatives are you engaged in at the Capitol this legislative session that will help us to move restorative justice, criminal justice reform, and the rights of citizens in Georgia forward?
I would say right now I'm working on a bill called the Second Chance Act, and I think it's going to be a great bill that's going to deal with individuals who were incarcerated or not incarcerated necessarily, but convicted of a misdemeanor crime or a felony crime at a very young age. And if they commit any future offenses, they will be considered for the Second Chance Act after a solicitor or a prosecutor has looked over it. And if they can't agree to it, it will go to a judge. But we have situations, Solicitor, where individual between the ages of 17 or 25 will commit, say, a battery, and they'll utilize their first offender. However, if they get into a situation where they are arrested again at the age of 35, 40, maybe 50, they can't utilize that first offender. And they might have been, at the time, addicted to opioids, or it could have been a crime of economic distress. But this would be all nonviolent offenses that we will deal with.
That's an important project and initiative.
Mm-hmm.
How do you believe that prosecutors can help push this agenda forward and really protect lives while also saving futures?
I think, we're kind of giving the prosecutors the first right of refusal. So I think the prosecutors get the opportunity because you all are on the front lines. And so it's a situation where you see the individual, but you also see their criminal record, but you also see the person that they are, especially in state court. So it's an opportunity for you all to take a person by person, case by case, and really just look at the individual and see if they can get actually a second chance. Okay. And it also goes towards workforce development. It would be able to get these individuals, which are citizens of this great state of Georgia, back into the workforce without them having a mark against them that would prevent them from being back in the workforce and being productive citizens.
Thank you for your leadership in that regard. Representative Bennett, congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. As Georgia Legislative Black Caucus Chair.
Thank you.
That's a lot. That's a big title.
It is.
Yes.
Would you share with our audience what that means?
What that means is that I am the leader of all of the Black elected officials in both the Georgia House and the Georgia Senate. And
Wow.
you know, that is a big responsibility to lead other leaders. And so I am honored, I am humbled, and yet we are ready to continue the mantle of leadership in the Black Caucus here in the state of Georgia.
Thank you for your service and your leadership. In that role, are there initiatives and programs that align with the often sought after pursuit of the King Dream?
Oh, I'm glad that you asked. Thank you for asking that, because our mission is actually prompted on the types of things that Martin Luther King Jr. Aligned himself with and fought so very much for, in terms of education, affordable health care, criminal and social justice, economic empowerment. And now we see a lot about transit and transportation, and we have learned how much transit and transportation aligns itself and impacts economic empowerment, because if we are not able to get people to and fro different communities, then that could alter their ability to have some economic impact. And so with the freedom fight and the I Have a Dream, we have a dream to continue to just endow our community as well as the state of Georgia with equal opportunities that impact us all.
Wow, thank you. It is amazing to me that the work in which you both are engaged is absolutely related to the King Dream.
It is.
And the notion of a second chance bill or legislation to allow more people, frankly, the opportunity to pursue the American dream is absolutely in line with the Black Caucus agenda. And I'm so happy that you all are doing this work. How can we help? I'm in the courthouse every day as an elected prosecutor. What can I do, or others, to support these restorative justice efforts?
Well, I would say, and Solicitor, I appreciate you, and always when we call to come down to the Capitol to advocate on behalf of good legislation. We ask you to continue to do that. Just come down there when we call, but also get your other prosecutors in the state of Georgia outside the metro area to see that this is something that's not only good for the metro area or for a certain class of citizens, but it's good for all Georgia citizens. So I think that's what we're trying to push as a caucus, that this is something that we can get all of us behind, all of us involved, and it's going to help Georgia moving forward.
Well, the citizens are better off because you all are in leadership positions at the Gold Dome. And Governor Deal, we know, had a lot to do with moving some of the legislation related to criminal justice reform forward. And it sounds like you all are going to, I know you were engaged in that work, but carry that torch even further.
And might I add also, with the criminal justice reform, I will be working toward expanding the returning citizens' opportunities in the community. That was once a pilot project, and of course we know that monies are needed to be in the program so that we can expand across the state. So I will be working toward expanding our returning citizen programs in the community.
That's great. The community needs it. As you all know, we've been boots on the ground with our expungement or record restriction initiatives. Do you all believe that we are in Georgia closer to the promised land or the other side of the mountaintop that Dr. King envisioned?
If I may begin,
Madam Chair.
this last election cycle has put pause in all of us for people who thought we had arrived and were at the top of the mountain. And yet we now realize that there's still much more work to be done. So we will be fighting for voting reform, voter rights, and restoring and even expanding and extending voting rights in Georgia so that what was suspected to happen could never happen. Voter suppression should be a thing of the past, and yet we have experienced it. So it is our responsibility, along with the citizens getting behind us, to work to see that voter suppression never happens in the state of Georgia.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would say, Madam Chair, is just dead on what she just said, is that we have to make sure that we do that and make sure those initiatives are pushed forward for voter integrity. But also, the state of Georgia has been a leader in one aspect of felons being able to have their rights restored to vote automatically once their sentence is terminated. So what we need to do as citizens is make sure we educate citizens on that to make sure we maximize our voter base. And I think that's something that the caucus is going to move forward on. And we're also always going to fight against voter suppression, and we're always going to fight for voter rights.
And are you getting the impression at this stage of this session that the folks in the Gold Dome are looking to unite and work together?
The messaging has been just that. And it would be the role and responsibility of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus to hold accountable that which has been said in terms of unity. And so, yes, we want unity. And yes, we're going to work toward unity so that we may carry out the mission on behalf of African Americans, people of color, and disenfranchised people in the state of Georgia. And I believe that that aligns itself with the I Have a Dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Well said. Thank you so much. And what else should citizens know about the important work you're doing in the Gold Dome?
I would say citizens should know that we're working hard, and we need our citizens to be engaged. We always talk about when we have major issues that we want to be more proactive than reactive. And I think what the caucus is doing this year under the leadership of Madam Chair is we're being very proactive. And we're asking for coalitions, and we're seeking coalitions and making sure that we get the mission of the caucus move forward. So I would just ask citizens, when you heed the call, when you hear the call, heed the call, and be there to help us move the needle forward.
I'd like to also add, thank you, Representative Bodie, in addition to his comments, 40 days will go back quickly, but we're here year-round.
Yes.
And so we want to hear from the community, the constituents, other organizations, not only in response to certain things, but as he said, to be proactive. So our doors are open, we are accessible, and we want to continue to hear from our community. And yes, we represent our community, and as you have said, with social justice and education and health care, and we lead the charge, but we also want to hear from our community as well.
Spoken like true community leaders. Thank you all for the great work you're doing on behalf of Georgia's citizens, and thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us here on the Restorative Justice Show. And we look forward to partnering and collaborating and moving Dr. King's dream forward together.
Thank you, and might I thank you as well for having us, but thank you so much for the work that you are doing and leading the charge for restorative justice.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Solicitor, again, for what you're not only doing here for the citizens of Fulton County, but for the citizens of the state of Georgia. You have taken restorative justice to the next level, and I know the things that you're doing here in Fulton are now being duplicated in other counties throughout the state, so thank you for your leadership.
Thank you all so very much. That concludes this edition of Restorative Justice. It is good to know that the civil rights movement is alive in progressive lawmakers like the ones we met today. For more information about the Solicitor General's office, you can reach out to our office directly at 404-612-4800. We also invite you to join us on our website and social media. Be sure to sign up to receive the Gammage Report, our quarterly newsletter. For Restorative Justice, I'm Solicitor General Keith Gammage. Until next time, please be safe.
Thanks, Solicitor. Up next, Fulton County Sheriff Ted Jackson and his plans for 2019. Stay with us. The Georgia Constitution mandates that each county has a sheriff, and legislation designates the sheriff as the chief law enforcement officer in the county. Now, in most counties with a sheriff and a county police department, the sheriff voluntarily relinquishes the general law enforcement responsibilities to the county police department. Fulton County's sheriff is Theodore Ted Jackson, and he joins us for this edition of Fulton Law and Justice. Sheriff Jackson, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, Sheriff, first things first. What would you say are some of your most important projects and initiatives for 2019?
In 2019, we're looking at our partnership with the Atlanta Police Foundation They've opened an experimental location on Cameron Alexander Boulevard called the Promise Center. And we're partners with them, and they're in the process of opening 2 others. And we want to continue the partnership because it helps us with our programs with young people, and it also helps us with inmates. When inmates are released, they're released to the Promise Center. We work with them with the organizations there to get them GEDs, housing, and to help them become productive so they don't end up in the system again.
We hear there's news about your impressive law enforcement division specifically related to canine officers in 2019?
We have an outstanding canine program. We have 4. Duke, who was a Labrador, just retired, and he was responsible for working with explosives. So we're replacing Duke. We have Belgian Malinois in training with Sergeant Underwood, who's going to be the handler. And we have 3 other canines, one named Kojak. Kojak does drugs and also police work. We have Diesel. Diesel does cell phones and patrol. And we have Ian, who is brand new, that also does patrols and drugs.
And now, sir, talk to us about your department's role in the Super Bowl.
Normally we work with Atlanta Police Department for New Year's Eve to help provide security for people that are celebrating the beginning of a new year. We have the fortune of having the Super Bowl, and we also will be working with the Atlanta Police Department, also with our canines. And for the first time, we have 2 deputies that are certified drone pilots. So now we have a drone as a technique that we can use in our investigations.
And finally, your office had great programs through the years. We understand many are coming back, including Citizens Academy, Bicycle Rodeo, and the Hype and Great programs. What else is coming back?
Well, 2019, we're going to build on what we've done over the past 10 years with our community outreach program. We're concerned about seniors protecting themselves, working with the young people and the homeless. And so through our chaplain program, we're going to try to increase the size of the chaplain program. We have about 165 chaplains now. We're building on it because we believe as a law enforcement agency, you have to have a relationship with the community, and our relationship is through the chaplain program. So the chaplains initiated 9 years ago a program for the homeless that we do the second Saturday in August every year. We're going to build on that, and so we're going to build on what we've done. Because of our small staff, we don't want to take on anything new. Most of our programs have lasted from 5 to 10 years, and they work, and we're going to continue to build on them.
Sheriff Jackson, sounds like a busy year for your office. Thanks for joining us on Fulton Law and Justice.
Thanks for having me.
And speaking of the Sheriff's Office, a popular program at the jail that helps better the lives of inmates and rescue shelter dogs makes its triumphant return in 2019. FGTV's Darryl Carver has more on this story that affects man and his best friend.
In a place where emotions are rarely expressed, on this day, these Fulton County inmates couldn't help but let their emotions get the best of them. This joyous occasion, attended by Fulton County commissioners and jail staffers, is the graduation ceremony for the Canine Cellmates project. The initiative is entering its 6th year at the Fulton County Jail.
We saved 127 dogs and put over 350 men through our program. We're gaining momentum on a daily basis now, and I think it won't be long before we expand into another facility as well.
Canine Cellmates is a program Sheriff Ted Jackson has been a proponent of since day one.
This is probably a high point of the Sheriff's Office.
The goal of Canine Cellmates is to positively change the lives of the inmates and the dogs who were rescued shelter dogs from Fulton County Animal Services. During the 8-week program, each inmate has the opportunity to train and bond with his assigned dog.
It showed me a lot of patience. It teaches positive reinforcement, and that's a skill that I really plan on using outside of here so that I don't come back here.
For the inmate, the training exhibits responsibility and accountability. As for the dogs that graduate, they're adopted by a forever family. The jail also benefits. According to Canine Cellmates' website, research shows there's been a dramatic decrease of violent outbursts in prison and jail facilities where jail dog programs operate, sometimes as much as 50%. Repeated habitual crime rates have also declined, which is a major deal since Metro Atlanta has one of the highest recidivism rates in the United States.
And just sitting up in Fulton County Jail, you're just sitting in the cell all day long. You have nothing to do, so when you come over here in a program like this, you get a chance to feel productive, feel needed and useful, and feel that you're doing something constructive. At the end of the day, you can look back and say, well, I achieved something positive.
Now that these inmates and dogs have graduated, each hope to make a positive impact as they enter the next phase of each of their lives. Reporting for FGTV, I'm Darryl Carver.
Thanks, Darryl. Up next, a special first for a Fulton County grand jury. Stay with us. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office is celebrating a very special first. The DA and his team welcomed the first ever person with autism to serve on the Fulton County grand jury. Meet Mr. Malcolm Woodson, who reported for duty with his mother and extended family in tow to celebrate his public service.
Half of the adult artistic community that they are not employed, they're not working, and they're not participating in the normal activities of this country. So when we found out that Malcolm was on our grand jury, that he was serving faithfully, we wanted to do something to show him our appreciation. And we're hoping that it will send a message to all of the young people who are suffering from autism and let them know that their dreams are possible if they just continue to work at them.
I think he started in November, and they picked him. He didn't ask to do it. They just picked him. He came home and said, "Mama, they swore me in." And I was like, "Who swore you in?" And he was like, the grand jury. I said, "The who?" I said, "You was only supposed to do one day, you know." And next thing I know, he said, "Well, I got to go all the way to January 4th.
Representatives from Autism Speaks Georgia and Atlanta Autism Consortium also came to the courthouse to support Malcolm on this historic day.
Malcolm is a huge inspiration to hear all that he's accomplished and all that he continues to dream and to continue to accomplish. And was so excited to receive, the email from the DA's office that they were going to be recognizing him today, and to hear that he was, the first autistic grand juror to serve is amazing. And he's really embodies everything of our organization about raising awareness and acceptance of autism.
It's a great experience for me though, because it makes me because I'm thinking about that I want to go into law enforcement field just by having this experience though.
As an added bonus for showing up for his grand jury duty service, District Attorney Paul Howard also named Mr. Woodson as an honorary Fulton County Assistant District Attorney. Congratulations, Mr. Woodson. Fulton County has committed itself to serving its residents in 6 priority areas. The strategic goal for Fulton's justice partners is making sure that all people are safe. On Fulton Law and Justice, we show you how Fulton's law enforcement and justice partners are doing that every day in how they serve and in the programs they provide to enhance the lives of all people, young and old. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Fulton Law and Justice. I'm Douglas Bell. We'll see you next time.